Is it possible to send homeschooled kids back to school?
Yes, very much so. It is very much like possible to send children back to school, um, whether they're little or teenagers. But yeah, if you want to know all the nitty gritties, ask away. What do you need to know?
Good, good. I have three icebreaker questions, and then we're
Ooh,
gonna continue with our interview. Okay. You're gonna choose one. It's very easy, so you just choose one. Okay.
okay,
Stay up
okay.
late or early bed.
Stay up late. Who has time to wake up early? Anyway, just saying. Only the
Okay.
committed wake up early. Yes.
Okay. Water or juice?
Hmm. It depends on the juice. But right now, where I'm at, my adult self says water. If you'd asked me 2 years ago, it would have been juice.
Okay. Okay. Pencil or ink pen?
Oh man, pencil,
Pencil.
pencil. Yeah, pencil.
Okay.
Because why? You can draw with a pencil and you can erase, and yeah, it just pencil all the way.
Pencil. Okay. I used to
A
love
good
pencil.
pencil.
A good one. Yeah, like like a
Yeah.
clutch pencil. I used to love pencil. I think maybe because I was doing technical drawing, but now I prefer pen. I think I'm more of a pen person. Yeah, and I'm an early bird, so waking me up, I choose that one than staying up late. Come 9 o'clock, I'm really tired. I just wanna close my eyes, and sometimes the
Really?
kids won't allow. Yeah, yeah, I prefer waking up early.
Yeah, no,
Okay,
I've always been a night owl. Always. Always.
yeah.
Having to teach myself to go to bed early.
Well, maybe it depends, hey? Maybe it depends
Yeah.
on what you're dealing with. Because when you're saying it, like I'm also thinking sometimes when you're working on something, you might end up working a bit late. But generally, I prefer waking up very early in the morning if I want to cover something. Yeah,
And that's why God gave you 6 children. Because
I
because yeah, that's the
or
only way.
maybe it's a coping mechanism. Maybe it's a
Yes.
coping mechanism. Like before
Yes.
they wake
Yes.
up, let me wake up.
Early morning is for the committed.
Yes. Shaveh, thank you so much. Hi guys. Today I have Shaveh here with me. She's a very experienced homeschool mom. She'll be sharing her journey on sending homeschool kids back to school. She sent one
Oh,
of her children, your daughter, right, back to school.
yeah.
So I just wanna put in some house rules before we continue. Whatever she'll be sharing here, it's based on her experience, and she's not here to
Mm.
give anyone advice. We're just talking like we were saying now. Maybe what you're saying does not make sense. It's
Yes.
just we're hoping that someone might learn something from it, but we're not here to give advice or we coming here as specialists or any of that stuff. If you have
Yeah.
questions on this topic, please leave them in the comment section below. We will definitely get back to you guys. We'll respond to all the questions that you'll receive. And our guest details, like their contact details, how you connect with them on social media, will be linked in the description box. So do check out the description box. And another thing, you know what? We all have an ability to think independently and have our own views. So please,
Yes.
if you're voicing those ones, just make sure that your opinions are respecting other people's opinions or views, point of views, but all are welcome. So yeah, whatever
Yeah.
we're sharing here, it's based on her experience. Now we are getting into the real stuff. Shaveh, can you please just tell us about your motherhood journey and your homeschool journey?
Whew. Um. Well, your motherhood, I've now come to learn. I don't think it's ever going to end. And your, uh, but
Does it
I
get
honestly,
better at least?
you know what? I can say yes because of where I'm at with my teenagers. Um,
Okay.
but I think because we've been very deliberate in our approach with them, so we're
Mm.
enjoying what we've been deliberate with in the past. So yay,
Mm.
the fruits of our labor we are now starting to
Yeah. Yes.
consume.
Yes.
But the homeschooling journey, we started. So where we are in our culture here. Am I allowed to say where I'm from? Like, it's
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
from
Up to
I'm
you.
originally from Zimbabwe, um, and grew up with the Cambridge curriculum, Cambridge education, private school. And then when I moved here to South Africa, I was always, I need to give you the backstory to give you the reason why we
Yeah, yeah.
homeschool.
Yes, yes.
I came to realize that lots of South Africans really struggled to step into the tertiary climate because of the
Yes.
education they were given. Not to say the education was bad, because I feel that the education has, my opinion, has it's deteriorated over time. So, like, the education that was given prior to maybe like 2000 was
Yeah.
really good, and but was still not as strong as the Cambridge curriculum, which is what I grew up on. So now, fast forward to when we had children, I looked at
Mm.
my little babies and I was like, well, it was actually our one little baby at the time, and I thought, um, we could maybe put her in preschool and then see what
Mm.
would happen. But when we did put her in preschool, at the time, as a family, we had the capacity to have the children at home with us. I had resigned from my job, to mainly focus on being at home with her, and then
Wow.
fell pregnant. I was meant to focus on her and start a business, but then fell pregnant, and then just the
That was your
business kind of
business.
went. Yes, it just went with the birds.
Yes.
And so I fully focused in and was really enjoying teaching her basics at home. And then
Mm.
we got the opportunity for her to go to preschool. And the biggest red flag for us was realizing that, as much as she was our number one, she was
Mm.
surrounded by other kids that were possibly the second, third, or fourth child in their family. And so
Mm.
their influence was now going to be on our child. And so I came to realize, I felt that, specifically me, not my husband, I felt that it was important for us to be the first point of mention with her, because she was our first one, which would mean that she would
Yeah.
then influence the ones that came after.
Yes,
So that
yes,
was,
yes, yes.
so she went into school, but there was major anxiety, which apparently is normal, which I don't think is fair. Um, and she was then learning things that a 3-year-old shouldn't be learning. And so then that was where we were like, okay, you know what? Let's pull her, like, give her, can bring her home. And then I was going to
Mm.
school her at home from the age of 3. And I
Mm.
mean, 3 years old, you didn't remember, like, it's shapes and colors and numbers, and,
Yes.
like, let's cook
It's fun.
together and all of that. And then we made the decision that we were going to take it 1 year at a time. We then said, okay, at the end of every year, around November, we'll reassess, see how our child then, and then later children, how they were doing, how would they need to go into an institution? Would it be better for them to be in an institution or to be with
Mm.
us at home? And so that's what we did every year. And we've done that every year up until
Mm.
recently. I think 20, when we eventually sent our one child to school, it was then that we decided, actually, we're making a final decision for all three throughout. I think because of also the political climate that's happening in South Africa, it
Mm.
shifted our big decision. But yeah,
Mm.
um, so we chose to do. I'd been influenced by other ladies that were doing homeschool with their children. So I went with the curriculums that they had. The one was doing a very eclectic, like, pulling from wherever. I didn't like that. I felt that it was. I felt I needed boxes to tick, and I needed, like, I came to realize I'm that person. I need it, and I was unashamed about it. So, but that would mean that we'd have to buy the curriculum from overseas. Um,
Mm.
the reason why, the backstory with the Cambridge thing, was that I also wanted to give my kids the opportunity to have a private schooling experience in terms of education, but we couldn't
Yes.
afford private school. So it was a case of, we didn't have like 6,000-7,000 rand at the time, which was a lot of money back. Can you believe it? Like 16 years ago, that was a lot of money. And when I look at what we spend now, I'm just like, yo. We couldn't afford private schooling, and so we wanted private school experience for our children. And so therefore homeschooling was the option that we'd choose, because the amount of money that we'd have used for both of them to go into, because we only had
Mm.
two at the time, the amount of money that we would have used for the two of them to go into private school, we could actually use, what, per month, we could
Yeah.
use that to buy the curriculum for the whole year and keep
Mm.
it. So buy the curriculum for the first one, keep it for the second one, and
Mm.
therefore, if we had more children, because we didn't know if we were going to have more, then keep it for that one as well, and thereafter sell it and actually get a
Mm.
return on our investment,
Yes.
which is now, I mean, it's starting to
It
work a
makes
little bit
sense.
now because now my son is finished, and so we're starting to like get rid of the
Mm.
stuff and get it back. And so that was the reasoning. The other reason why we homeschooled is that at the time my husband was he was working from 7 in the morning until 10 at night. Mainly because we were in at the time we were pastors in a at a church, and they required certain, pastors go to work early because prayer meetings and all the things,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's there. And then now there's meetings in the evening because that's when like working
Mm.
people are able to meet and so on. And so it just felt very if we hadn't made the move, we would have been robbed as a family of time with dad. So
Yeah.
that was another reason why we
Wow.
homeschooled when they like we started homeschooling, is so that I could just pick them up, take them to dad at work, and we could do work, like we could do school with like being
Yeah.
pottering around dad, and it
Yes.
was his environment catered for that, so we were able to do it. But at least the girls could see that they had access to their father even though he wasn't at
Mm.
home. So that was
Mm.
and that then began the culture that we have as a family, is that it's relationship first before education. Because you can, like, I'm glad we've taken that approach, because the way that technology has accelerated from the start of our homeschooling journey to where we are now,
Yeah.
you can learn anything. Honestly, if you
Yeah.
can read and write, I'm a firm believer that
Yes.
if you can read and write, you can learn anything. You have access to YouTube, you have access to books, you have access to everything. But one thing you can't, and like you can't um, recultivate or reprocess, is a relationship with your parent or with your
Mm.
sibling. If that
Mm.
gets deteriorated and that breaks down, it is very hard to rebuild that in the later years,
Very
and it's
sure.
not the kind of thing that we were willing to sacrifice. So those were the main reasons why we started
Mm.
homeschooling, why we still homeschool. Yeah,
Wow. That's so
yeah.
beautiful. That's so beautiful. And you just make it all make sense, you know? And I think you've answered my next question, which was why did you decide to homeschool? And you just
Oh
explained
yeah.
it now so beautifully. Um, can you just distinguish for someone who's watching and maybe they're not sure what's the difference? What's the main difference between when you say homeschool and sending a child to school? Like, what is the difference?
Okay. So what I've come to understand, and what also helps, is that my mother was a primary school teacher. So I grew
Oh,
up in a home where she was a teacher, which helps me as a homeschooling parent. Like, no joke.
yeah.
You can do this without having any background, but it does help that my mother had the primary school experience. Um,
Okay.
but the difference, that I remember her coming home and saying, she could see which child has their mother at home and which child doesn't,
Wow.
based on their attitude. Yeah, she could see based on their attitude and just like towards their work and what they were producing, being secure as an individual. So in terms of that, the difference between homeschool and school is that the homeschool child is getting a full experience of being mentored and coached by their parent only. Whereas when
Mm.
they're at school, they have that. Yes, there are amazing families. How they do this, I don't know. And God bless them, because it really is a gift to get it right. Where they
Mm.
are being mentored and coached by their parents, and they're thriving, but they are also being influenced and coached by their teachers. That is the
Mm.
difference. So that, like, homeschool has only one, like, adult voice, whereas when the child is at school, there's multiple adult voices, and that child now has to differentiate between which influences they want to then follow, and what they want to be like groomed by. Um,
Wow.
and unfortunately, the system is now starting to get to a place where they're trying to strip the parents' right from that. Like, so it's more hours at school. It's and what's being taught at school, the parents can't have a say at what's being taught.
Mm.
But those that are getting it right. So I don't really want to give a negative spin on it. It's that the
Yes.
involved parents, the parents that have their children in school and that are really involved with what their kids are doing, what they're consuming, are in relationship with the teachers. That for me is like the best of both worlds, because then the child still gets to have that school experience and have a positive experience and be mentored by other adults, and the parent is involved. Homeschool is just a nest egg of it's a lot more controlled in terms of the voices that are coming in, and that honestly, that's a family choice, it's a family preference. And as our conversation goes along, you'll see why we sent our one child to school, because certain children long and crave for the ability to flex with those voices. Like they want the outside influence. They want to be tested. They want to have that. Whereas other children are very happy. My oldest, very happy to be homeschooled for the rest of her life. Don't feel the
Wow.
need to talk to people, like really. So it's I think I
Yeah.
think that I think that would be the difference, without spinning negativity on either.
Yes.
So that would be the difference, is that it's just the number of voices that are in there. I think as a
Nice.
school
Nice to
going
find.
parent,
And the thing you
you have
can.
to,
Oh,
yeah.
sorry. Yeah, yeah. I was
No,
saying, let's jump to that. Why? Because now we understand you have this good foundation and you have your reasons. Your reasons are good, great. You know, it's working for your family. You're raising your kids. At the time, you had two daughters,
yes,
and then later
yes,
on, you had a son. So now you have three,
three.
right? So everything
Yeah.
is good. You've been doing this for years. You know, even the fears
Mm,
that you had at the beginning, I assume they're
yeah,
gone because now you can see it's working out. Now, why did
yeah,
you decide to send your second born to school?
yes. Um, So the one thing, like I said earlier, is that, at the end of each year, we would take the time to just look at our kids and just assess where they're at and how they were doing. And in a sense, we weren't just looking at them in terms of education. We were looking at them as whole human beings. So how are they doing emotionally? How are they doing spiritually? How are they doing socially? And so on. And there was there just came a point where we looked at our second one, and we could feel an onset of depression coming over her. Like there was just like she was just becoming a lot less motivated to pursue what she was wanting to do. And she
Mm,
had been asking us prior to that, can I go to school? I'd really like to go to school. And we had just said no. Like they like, you need to show us why. She needed
yeah.
to promote, and she couldn't give us any reasons.
Mm,
Because we're also very much about think for yourself. You need to think for yourself. You need to give us good reasons why, so then we can actually motivate and support you in the decisions
yeah.
for what you want to do. And so she wasn't giving us that. But when we looked at her, there was just this sadness that was coming over her. And my homeschool mommy heart was just like, I don't want to release her to any of the wolves, like keep her at home. Um, but
Yeah.
like I just realized that if my children are not mine. They are actually, I'm just a steward to be able to get them from point, like from birth to where they need to be an adult. That's the journey. That's the gift God's given me to our steward. And God
Yeah.
really reminded me in this period where she was just getting really sad. He says, I've got your back and I've got her. Let it, like, pursue the school thing with her. So I chatted to my husband and I said, listen, one, we still couldn't afford private schooling. There was no way we were gonna, but we had heard really great testimonies and stories of people that had, when their child decided they were going to go to school, that finance was approved, or bursaries, or the headmaster was like all happy. Like, so with that, I was like, okay. And then God reminded me, hey, I've got her. Like she needs this. So then, I struggled anyway. But they,
I can
I
imagine.
said, I said to her, listen. So not I said to her, Tim and I, my husband and I, had a meeting with her and just said, hey, we're going to consider this, and we'd like, and these are the only options that we can give you. So there's an amazing little public school just around the corner from us. So she would be close to home. We said to her, if you're going to go to school, it's going to be into a public school. We're not going to put you into a private school. And we are going to go test the waters, and we're going to go with every step. And if a door closes, then it closes, and it means that you're not meant to go.
Okay.
So we then she was happy with that. She was excited. I emailed the school to say, hey, this is who I am. We have she was grade 6, she was grade 7, so it was actually the beginning of her grade 7 year. Um,
Okay.
and I emailed the school and asked them, hey, are you open to having homeschoolers just come in and, try it out for a bit and then possibly leave? Because that's what we wanted to do. And, just to just to give her a taste of
Yeah,
what
yeah,
school was. And if she didn't like it, then she could just come back home.
yeah.
And they responded positively. They were like, yeah,
Good.
sure, your kid can come. Let's have a meeting first, and then we can chat. Okay, there come. I was like, oh my goodness, the door's open. And then the so we went with my husband and I, and we took her with, like, so that they could
Okay.
meet her. And we then had the meeting. I was expecting for her to only be in school for like 2 weeks. Then
Okay.
my husband was like, no, I think for this to really work and settle for her, she needs to be in for a term.
Mm.
And I was like, yeah, okay. So, and they agreed. The school was like, no, this is great. It's fine. And if she has any, they'd never had a homeschooler come in before. So she was the first. And she would have to, they said that she would have to have a uniform and all of that. She
Yeah.
couldn't just come in civvies. And they would integrate her properly into the system, and just so that she could get a taste of whether she wants to stay there for longer or not.
Can I
So I
stop
was
you
like,
there?
okay, yeah,
Can I
go for
stop
it.
you there? Because you're saying you were able to send her to school. Um, I don't know if you're comfortable in disclosing this, and if you're not, you don't have to. But was she registered with the Department of Education, or that was not part of the conversation that you had with the school principal?
I'm getting there. So what happened is that the administration office, so now, get thumbs up from the principal, thumbs up from vice principal. The vice principal was amazing. She even said if she gets tired of school, she can come sit in my office just for a break, da, 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 da. I was like, oh my word. And but then but then I'm like, okay, because we aren't registered, to be honest, we're not registered with the Department of Education. And so but I'm not against it. So if I need to and they come knocking on my door, great, you know what, sign me up. Like, there's nothing, and you can check my books, like
I'm
I've
not
got
hiding.
everything recorded. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can test my children. Um and they'd probably love it. But the So when I got to the admin office, I said, okay, now we need to organize fees, because we're not doing this for free. We need to pay. And she said, okay, but she needs a student number. And I was like, oh, okay, we're hitting that wall. Okay, so I was like, okay, cool, I'll go. How do I register with the Department of Education? Okay, now you have to go online and do the whole process. This is probably going to great if anybody from the Department of Education is going to hear this. They probably going to either go check their system, or they'll just think that I've got the emails to prove it. So I went and I registered her, and she's already been accepted. They've said she can start at the beginning. It was going to be at the beginning
Yeah.
of the second term. She can
Mm.
start. She can go in. Her teacher has been notified. I've been given information with the teacher, so I can liaise with the teacher to say if there's any problems.
Wow.
Um, Register with, and 4 weeks. We met with them in the second last term of the first term. I register online to say, this is my daughter, this is the age.
Yes.
I handed in a report. I put in a report of what her work was at the time. The system didn't really accept it, but I was like, hey, then give me the proper thing. So I wasn't going to fight it. She gets in, but in the waiting process, there is a student. You get given like I was given a student, like a login student number, and the admin
Okay.
office of the school accepted it because it was a student number. So then she
Okay.
but we were not officially registered with the Department of Education,
You're still on the
to my
waiting
knowledge.
list.
So
Mm.
we're on the waiting list. She's then in school, like she's in school, loving it, doing well. Like for 2-3 weeks, I get a message, I get an email from the Department of Education to say, no, she's not accepted. There's not enough room. We've put you on the waiting list. So, so
There's
that's
not
why.
enough room because she's already inside the room.
No, yeah, exactly. But I don't even think they were counting their students. So this is where I'm like, for homeschoolers who are feeling a little bit like, what if my child and da 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 da? I'm like, guys, um, until their system is up to scratch, I don't think we have much to worry about, to be honest. Um, if they come for me after this interview, okay, guys, like
No,
I'll win souls for Jesus in jail. Like, know.
no, you're not going to
But
change. You're just sharing your experience. You're not making this up. So
yeah,
you're just sharing what happened. So it happened. It's
it's
the
true.
same thing
And
as people trying to register for homeschoolers. I see a
yes,
lot of emails, people saying, "Can you help me?" I'm like, "Hey, I don't work at a department. I just share my journey online, but I don't really
yes,
work at a Department of Education because people are trying to register and maybe their system is not working, no one is
yes,
responding, all those things.
yes.
There's nothing we can
And
do. There's something that
and
they
I
can do."
and I do and I must admit though, now that my child was in the system, I completely I went in with a lot of judgment towards the South African schooling system and the teachers and so on. But after her being in there and just seeing how things work,
Mm.
I think the word is sympathy for all the teachers, because their hands are tied, the system is failing them, because there is so much work to be done. Like they have so much work to do. I mean, for one science teacher to have to mark 120 papers, like, or school books a day, it's just not fair, like humanly fair. Anyway, that's another soapbox moment for another
Yeah,
day. So,
yeah.
um, but yeah, like, so she was in, and I don't know if you like, she was in for second term of grade 7, and we said to her we'd reassess at the end of the term and then see what we're going to do and go from there.
But Shivan, when you got that message now saying, "Sorry, there's no room," did you take her out of school? Or what happened after that?
No, she just stayed. Like, because the teachers, I felt that if we were on good terms and we were okay with I felt that if we were on good terms with the head of the school, and she was sticking to the rules, she wasn't like rebellious, she wasn't failing, she was actually doing really well, which was great for me as a parent, because I
Yeah.
was like, yes, I'm doing it right. This child knows what she's
Yes,
doing.
yes.
Yes. Um, but also the admin office was happy with just the student number. I think as long as she was on the system and she was getting logged, then they were happy. I think if
Mm.
anything negative had come around from that, then we'd have pulled her out, but we didn't. Like, she was in for the full experience. She had also, she had never done Afrikaans, and
Okay.
now suddenly, yeah, we had done Spanish as a family. Now she goes into the school system and needs to do Afrikaans, and it was like,
And that is grade
Jesus help
7,
us.
you say?
Grade 7. And they were open to her, because we explained to them, we said to them that she's never done Afrikaans, she's probably going to struggle. Is there any way that she could? And they were willing to put her with the grade 3s for a little bit, to be able to to catch up. It never
Yeah.
happened, and I do understand. Like, it was nothing to get upset about, because the system is so, like, they had a lot to do. So for them
Yeah.
to now think about
It was
this
not
one little
practical.
homeschooler, it didn't make sense. So we just did our best. She was really smart. My daughter was really smart to figure out the system. So she decoded the system in a sense that she was like, hey, my dad reads and understands Afrikaans, so I'm going to use him at home.
Okay.
So she, for her orals and all of that, she learned the stuff off by heart, was able to do it, didn't understand it, but it was fine. And then and then what happened was, is that in her tests and stuff, she was able to figure out what they were asking basically, and then be able to understand how to respond with the right words. So she figured it out and came out with like a, what do they call them? You get the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think she passed with a 5 or a 6. And
Wow.
so we were, yeah, and we were just like, hey, that's way
Wow.
more. When she came out with that, I was like, I was expecting maybe a 2 or a 3, but she came out with a 5 and a
Wow.
6, and I was like, you know what, girl, go, well
You're
done.
rocking it.
Woo.
You're rocking
Yes,
it. And
yeah.
now the requirements going back to when you were registering her with the school. Obviously, did she continue after the second term, or this was just that phase when she was just testing and then you took her out, or did she just continue with school for the rest of that year?
So what this was a, a personal like a family decision. So what we like I said at the beginning is that we look at all of our children holistically. So we were looking at her and seeing what was coming out of her, and we were looking at what was coming out of her siblings. So we were,
Mm,
and what was happening to us as a family. So we said to her at the end of the second term, we sat her down and we said, okay, these are the notes that we've taken from this term. Is that one? So every school child has decompression. We'd never experienced it before. So she would come back from school and then decompress. And the way that she would decompress is that she would lash out at her siblings, which I was able to explain to her siblings. And then we were able to navigate it with her to say, listen, you need to be aware this is what you're doing. It's not good. It's not healthy. You need to change it. She adjusted and changed, which was great. Um, but we were able to make that as a note. We said that your at the end of the term, we said your relationship with your siblings is under strain, and that is not good. If you keep
mm,
on being harsh and critical and like just nasty to them, then we'll pull you out. Like simple.
mm,
So she fixed that. The education wise, she was thriving. She was fine. But what was happening is that she was putting herself under immense pressure. I don't know if you've got one of those children where if it's not 100% done right, then they kind of spin out into a stress bubble. So
yeah.
she was starting to work up to about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. And we're a family that values sleep, and so we said that's not going to work for us.
Mm,
Because what was happening is that because she was wanting to do everything so perfectly, she was
mm,
also starting to compromise her passions.
mm,
She loves dance and has loved dance since she was 4. And she was starting to use the language of, oh, I don't feel like going to dance today. I don't want to
mm,
like. And so we said to her, sorry, that's we as your parents, we can't allow you to compromise your passion for your education, because we know
mm,
that the education part you can always deal with. So there was that factor. The other factor is that we could see socially that
yeah.
she was thriving. She had friends. She did well. They, like, obviously, because she was the new kid on the block, she was getting a lot of attention. Um, and as much as that was enjoyable and that was fun, there was a lot of girls in that age category are just plain nasty. And she luckily had the backbone to deal with it. Like, she was just like,
Mm,
and she's always been like that. It's like, oh, you're coming at me. Well, stuff you. And she walks away. Like, she doesn't play to the drama. And she
yeah.
was starting to play to the drama. So we were also
Mm,
like, you're losing your voice, and that's not
mm,
cool. So those are the notes that we gave her. And also considering that because of my Cambridge upbringing, we said to her, you know what? As a compromise, we're going to allow you to finish the year. Like, take term 3, take term 4, get in all the drama, pass or fail. It doesn't matter. Like, just enjoy school for everything it is. But you're not going to high school. So we said we didn't want her to go to high school. One, because it was going to be too expensive, and two, what came out of our son while she was at school is that because we were having to pull our schedule back and weren't as flexible or free, the homeschool kids couldn't go on as many field trips as they would normally have done, because we had to always be back to pick her up from school, and we always had to be back to sort her
That
out. So
was
there was
coming. I wanted to find out how did you manage that, having one child at school and two at home, and the schedules are definitely
yeah,
not the same. The school one is
it,
set, like this time to this time. If maybe
it,
you have other commitments, then how did you manage that as a family?
I think as a family we grouped around her and said we were going to do this for her, like for and that
Mm,
was at the end of the term conversation, because our son, during school, when it was time to, now I said to him, unfortunately we actually can't go on this field trip because we have to, like, we have to pick your
be
sister
back.
up. He threw his hands up in the air and shouted, she's ruining our lives. And that and that, for me, when it happened, I thought, yo, okay. um I don't want him to walk around with bitterness and angst towards his
Mm,
sister and feel robbed.
mm,
And so we said to her, that was another thing, is that you're stealing time
mm,
from your siblings. And two, if you go to private school, because we can make a plan. Financially, we can make a plan.
yeah.
But what it does is that our family budget is only so much, and you going to school will take this much of it, and your siblings are left with this to share,
To
as
share.
well as having their time taken away. Um,
Mm,
we said to her, you can obviously see that as your parents, we can't allow that to happen, because your
mm,
relationship will be damaged long
yeah.
term because of what you wanting to do. We
Okay.
also then were able to ask her, please just think through, what are you getting from school that we can maybe
That they're
replicate
not.
at home, that we
Yes.
can replicate at home. So it was also a case of, and she came to the end of the year and just said she really liked the structure. So I said, hey, it's an easy fix. We can do structure at home. She also liked she liked the teachers and having the different teachers. And but by the end of the year, she was over it, which is great, because I was like, I'm not getting in high school tutors just for you to have different teachers. And then what was also helpful is that she was also just loving the social attention. She loved
Mm,
the social dynamic. And so it came down to considering that we can do the structured environment, and if we need to, we can pay for tutors for them to come home. We can do
yeah.
that. But the social thing, with those other two eliminated, we were not going to pay for her to be in a social club, for her to go and socialize. So we then said to her, okay, we'll try and work on your social interaction and give you more liberties to hang out with your friends. And so we've
Mm,
since done that. And then by the end of end of the year, she was over it. Like she was just like, nah, yeah.
it
Which
wasn't
is kind of
exciting
what
anymore.
I was like, thank you, Jesus, because I was like, if she was still pushing and still wanting to go, then it would have been
Yeah.
fine. I know, like, it would have been
Mm,
fine, but I was just so relieved. And she's
yeah.
back now. She's happy. She's thriving, and for what she's wanting to pursue, she now has all the extra added time to do that. Whereas if she had been
Mm.
in school, she would have been really stuck. So yeah, it's
At the beginning, you mentioned that how much you value education and the quality education that is, and then
mm,
you made comparison to the British curriculum and our South African CAPS curriculum. The
yeah,
school
yeah,
that she went to was a public school, so I'm assuming
yeah,
they used CAPS. How did
yes.
you deal with that, and um, how did you deal with that as a parent in when you identify those whatever loopholes or whatever that you were noticing that are different from whatever that she was using at home and what she's doing at
Yeah,
home? I mean at school. How did you deal with that, and
yeah.
how did you deal with that?
So I think what I did was is that I made her aware of the differences. So just
Okay.
one basic thing that's different about, um, just like simply putting, because we're not even doing Cambridge at home. Like we're doing an American based curriculum, but the difference between Cambridge and CAPS, if we're going to put those two next to each other, and what I was able to make her aware of, is that Cambridge teaches you one thing and asks you questions on that one thing that they've taught. So whereas CAPS will teach you 8 things. I can't see my. Will teach you 8 things and ask you a question on the same topic, 8 ways of doing things, and then ask you to do to ask asks you to answer like the fourth way of doing it, but tricking you with like a question that looks like the seventh way. So it's very I feel it's unfair to the child. So then I just kept saying to her, look at the curriculum. They're trying to teach you 6 ways of doing fractions, for instance. They're teaching you 6 ways of doing fractions. You know the way that we've taught you how to do fractions. Just do that way. You'll get to the answer the same way. Don't stress about the way to get there. Um, and that's so sad because I felt like it was a lot of wasted time. So handling that, I just had to every time look at her work and say, and that's where the perfectionist thing was she was struggling with, because
Yeah.
the CAP system was requiring that she needed to do all 10 different ways in her homework before she was just there was a lot of time wasted on just one
So she
topic
wants to perfect
because she
every
needed,
way.
yeah, she wants to perfect every kind of system and understand everyone. And
Mm.
that's just shame. It was just very taxing, and so that's why I say I empathize. I sympathize with the system because it's a lot of work just to
Yeah.
get to one point. Gosh, my eye is
Yeah.
itching. Sorry.
And then
So
you
in terms of
also said,
yeah.
no, sorry, Shavan, you can continue.
No, so when you asked in terms of handling that, I just tried to
Yeah.
break it down for her so that she could mellow out because it was, and it's because I knew, like, because I was able to look at the curriculums and say, no, this is actually a waste of your time. Do this, and not many people have access to that kind of knowledge in terms of yeah,
And
and
experience as well.
yeah, it is helpful if you have a teacher that decides, hey, scrap that. Let's just focus here. Great. Then you
Mm.
have gold in a teacher because that teaches then
Mm.
yeah. But
Okay.
shame. There's not that many.
Yeah. And you mentioned, I think throughout, when you're telling your story, that you'll have points where you sit down as a family and then you evaluate. How do you practically do this? Like, do you sit and write every day like you did this today? I'm
Oh,
gonna
that's so
get
funny.
to end of the term. How did you do that? Because you know why I'm asking? Because as you are talking, I'm also thinking about my own life and everything, and I'm just
Yeah.
thinking with my kids. They're all different, right? And there are
Yes.
certain things that maybe you would identify as parents, and you'll be talking together like, hey, if you see this person, this child is struggling
Yeah.
with this and this and that, how can we best support them and so forth? But the way you said it, it sounded so detailed. Like, how did you as a family establish those monitoring things
Monitoring
throughout the
values.
term and so forth?
I think you know what it is that okay, please know that we didn't have like sit down meetings. There was there was
Okay.
the only time we actually did that was when we sat down with her because of the
Yeah.
situation. When we sat down with her and we felt that we needed to pull her aside without her siblings
Yeah.
into the whole thing. That
Yeah.
was the only time we met. Um, what I think because I'm a homeschooling parent and you get to spend individual time with each
Yeah.
child at some point,
Yeah.
and being able to observe them. I have come to a place in my homeschool journey where I look at, as much as I'm not getting paid to do what I'm doing, I do look at my fam, like the way I'm running the home, as my job. So if my husband is the CEO and I have to report to him and just give feedback about what's happening. So if that's the case, then my children are my staff members or employees or whatever. So now in order to give good feedback, I need to just consistently be assessing and looking at them. And if there are any red flags, go to him as the head of the home, or like who's like
Yeah.
and be able to say, hey, listen, this is what I've noticed. Can you check, like watch them over the next few days and see if I'm missing it? Or and so we work as a team, as like husband and wife in the family unit to be able to see. So just as an example, a few weeks ago, he felt that he was being disrespected by one of the girls. And so I was like, okay, I don't see it, but okay. And then I sat and I watched, and I could see how he was getting irritated by her. And I thought, okay, he was totally misunderstanding her. And so then, and I was able to now pinpoint certain things and be able to give him feedback to say, I think you've missed it. this is what she's actually trying to do. And so
Mm.
therefore, I think you need to adjust and see this is what she needs.
Mm.
And we've just always worked with that dynamic. It's never been a
Yeah.
sit down, let's reassess or whatever. There has been like one or two like family moments where we feel the need for everybody to hear
Yeah.
everybody's perspective. We
So
do
it's
have
something that you were doing throughout. It's not like you wait
yeah,
for a certain period. So as it happens, you were addressing those things. Just that now you're
yes.
summarizing everything for us.
Yes, I like it. It is a case. It's a consistent assessment, and obviously,
Mm.
if the red flags are popping up throughout by the November, like I said, by the November, then you kind of know, okay, we need to we need to adjust something here, and
Mm.
that's when the decisions are made, so that the new year we're ready for whatever whatever that child needs, or even us as a family, what we need to do in order for that child to like to thrive
Mm.
as best as possible. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, parenting is not for sissies.
It's not. It's definitely not. It's not. It's not. Shaveh, you mentioned that she didn't do Afrikaans. Were there any other subjects that she was doing at home that she was no longer doing at school, or that she wasn't doing at home was now doing at school?
There was all the subjects that we were doing at home, she did at school, except for the Afrikaans. So like she was doing maths, English. Our social studies incorporates geography, history, and all of that. So she was like, when she
Mm.
got to school and they had to do that. What was also great is to see how little they were doing of each subject, because then it made me feel so
Mm.
much better as a parent. To be like, okay, I don't need to do the most at home, guys.
Yeah.
Like they're doing only 2 hours of science a week. Like we do not need to be breaking the belt at home. Anyway, that was funny. But the one subject that she didn't do, that she started doing there, was technical drawing. Um,
Okay.
and she loved it. She loved the technicality of it and whatever. And so I asked her when she came back home, would she like to continue? She was like, no. So, okay. I was all ready, but so that was the only subject, was the technical drawing. Life sciences, we were doing science at home, and she'd already done all of that. Yeah, there wasn't much difference other
Yeah.
than the Afrikaans, which was
Okay.
it was really good for me to see as a pair, like because I'd been homeschooling for so long and really didn't take the time to actually I my oldest's best friend is in school, and we'd always like slightly compared. Whenever she got a report, it's like, oh, you got 7 sevens, okay, what 7 subjects did you do and what does that look like? But it was never real
Yeah.
until our second one went to school. So yeah, it's always been happy with
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Okay. And after everything you have to have experienced, are you planning to send her back to school, or to send any of your children back to school? Or to school,
um
not back, because some of them have never been there.
Yeah, my oldest has expressed definitely not. She won't ever go back. Considering the path of my second one, where she's at and what she wants to do, um, I don't think it's going to happen. If she does go to school, it will be to a vocational school. She's wanting to become a ballerina, so she will then go to a ballet school. That's what. So if I say
Yeah.
no, she won't go to school, then I'd be nullifying the ballet school. Um, but the third one, our son, I don't know, guys. I can't answer it with assurance,
Yeah,
but
right
also at
now.
the same time, he has such unique learning skills and learning ways of learning. I don't think
Mm.
right now he wouldn't fit in a classroom. Um, he would be brilliant. He's very smart, and he does his work really well, and he'd be fine, but he'd get very bored very quickly and then end up being a nuisance.
Mm.
So I'd rather protect. I've always made this joke, is that I homeschool my kids to not keep them out of the system. It's more that I want to protect the system from my children. because because
Yes,
they
it's
would
you
go in.
protecting.
I
Yeah.
I know my kids. I know, like, I've said it to my oldest one. She would have been a bully if she was in school because she's just like, you need to do it my
Like
way
you're
or just get out
protecting
of
the
my face.
system from your children.
I'm protecting other children from my children.
I
So
like that.
that's
No, I like
so
that.
like
I like that.
we take the same approach at the end of every year, assess. We know now for sure that there's no school in the immediate future, but yeah, I can't say never. Like that would be
Yes.
unfair to each one of them. um yeah. I'm looking outside because my son is playing soccer. Yeah.
Okay. No. We're almost done. We're almost done. But just to wrap it up, with everything that has happened, you know, there's a parent maybe who's considering sending their children back to school for a number of reasons. Like in your case, maybe it was coming from the child, but in other
Yeah.
cases, maybe it's a parent. There are certain
Yeah.
circumstances have changed, and now they feel it's best to put a child at school.
Yeah.
They're just
Yeah.
not sure what to do, like what's best for the child. Like, can you speak to that? Like, what kind of advice, or can you just speak to that?
I would, because please trust me, I've wanted to send my kids to school just out of the fact that they drove me insane.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's
I know that
just
part.
that. And then
Yeah.
I also looked at the whole financial thing, just in terms of, because I can only give you my perspective and my opinion. So in
Mm,
terms of giving advice, I would really question what what outcome do you want to have at the end of the day, which is okay. I completely understand. Like, if guys are struggling financially and they need the extra income,
yeah.
make sure that you do the math, because is it worth, you have, and because I know these decisions don't come lightly. It's not
Mm,
easy to, because what parent, if you've been homeschooling, what parent really truly wants to send their kid back to school, honestly?
mm,
um
mm,
uh, Obviously special needs, if you have the access and the opportunity to get your child support and assistance, do it, because it'll give you the strength and be able to give you the downtime to be able to be a better parent to a special needs kid.
mm,
So I would recommend that. um,
yeah.
but if you're considering sending your kid back to school, just because you want to earn an extra buck, reassess, is your relationship with your child worth that, or would it be easier to have baked beans at home every day, and rather have the connection with your child that you want long term? You
Yeah.
have to, as a parent, you have to think about this with the long term game in mind. You can't think about the short term um,
Mm,
rewards, because
mm,
if the long term rewards, like, cancel out the short term, then it's not worth it. It's not worth. But if you are able to, like, say, if you are able to put your kid back in school, like, if it's for money reasons and you're able to earn really well, please, like, just always make sure that you are invested in relationship with the teacher, relationship with the school, and get, like, know who your kids' friends are and what they're being influenced by, so that you can
mm,
always be ahead of it. It's gonna, like, I'm a
mm,
lazy parent, not gonna lie. Part of the reason why I homeschooled also because I'm lazy. I'm like, I don't want to have to deal with all those other people. If I was in school, I'd have to make sure I know the teachers. I know what's going on. I have a voice in the school. I would have been on the PTA. I'd have been at the bake sales. I would have been doing all the things, because I want to
mm,
be an involved parent. My
mm,
Because the long term reward I want from my journey with my child is that we are connected and that we are in a relationship and that they are not pushing me away in their
mm,
teen adult years, because what do you know? Like, I'd hate for my teen
mm,
to turn around and look at me and be like, what do you know about my life? What do you know about what's going on? Whereas
mm,
if I can have the benefits of working, getting a salary, and being fully invested in my child's journey, gold. Um,
mm,
so that would be my advice, is just really do that pros and cons list, and what do you want at the end of the day. And the end of the day is when your child is 18 and decides they want to leave. What will you be able to say? I've done everything, and that my relationship will be intact with them, And if you're a single parent or if you're married, it's also a case of the married parent, I think, has more to think about, because you also have to consider your spouse. Because if your spouse is pushing you and this is not a team, like you're wobbly as a team, you have to think about, is my marriage more important than keeping my child happy? Um, and a healthy marriage is also good for the child. So put your kid in school as long as you can keep your marriage healthy, because your marriage is what your child needs more than education. So you see, there's so many
Yeah.
factors
So
to
many
think
dynamics.
about. Yeah. But
Yeah.
it's important to be the grown up. It's important to be the adult. It's important to think about 10 years from now and whatever. You may not even hit it, but at least have a plan. Because if you don't have a
Yeah.
plan, then it's gonna be like, oh my word, my child is 18 and I don't know them. And like, how did we get here? No,
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
a plan, and yeah, be on it and know the stats. Like that's another thing. I don't like research, and yet I like, because I don't want people to think that I've sat and I've researched all of this stuff. But it's important to know what your world, what your child's world is like, because what
Yeah.
we had as children is not what they are having
What
at the
they are in.
moment.
Yeah.
What they're being we've just come, just as an example, we've just come to realize that my son doesn't know the value of money because it's not tangible for him. It's all digital. So because it's all, he's grown up, he's an alpha generation where everything's digital. He's known nothing where where money is in his hands. It's all on a card, it's all on a screen, it's all on a
Yeah.
whatever. And just now we're having to readjust for us to be able to, okay, how do we teach him the value of money, yet we're not carrying cash around with us? Like this is, it's not the kind of thing that we dealt with as children. Like you had your 10 rand, your 5 rand, and you held your coins and you walked and
We even
da-da-da-da-da.
knew the date on our coins.
Yes. Yes, you even the ones that you would collect, you can see, hey, Madiba's face is on there and
God is
da-da-da-da-da.
mine.
Yes. And
Yeah.
he has no, and what's funny is that in the same family unit, my girls know the value of money because they know what it is. Because they've seen it tangibly. They grew up with DVDs and tapes, videotapes, whereas he, same family, has only known digital,
Do you know
only
how
known
hard it is to explain what is a tape? Yeah. Yeah.
exactly, and
Yeah.
he thinks it's a big joke, but at the same time, it's so important if you can bring analog into your home. So like now we've realized, okay, whoa, we need to actually draw some cash and so that he can see it in his
Yeah.
hands, like so that he can understand what those numbers mean.
But I
So
think
yeah,
I
so like
like what you're
now,
saying. I
yeah.
think what you're saying is, I don't know if I sound justified to what I'm going to say. Because you homeschool, you look at your child and their shortcomings in whatever sense,
Mm,
and then you take full responsibility in exposing them to that. You
yeah.
identify something, and now you say, okay, let's take full responsibility in exposing him to this. Hence,
Mm,
you are saying now you want to withdraw money and expose him to cash and all of that. So the
yeah.
mentality that you have as a parent, you're not relaxed. And it always gets to me when parents are just relaxed and they rely on, I don't know, whether social media or TV and what's not. If I were to sell this and I say this is educational, if I put
Yes.
educational and I say this
Yes.
is educational, and then people jump, so I think that is what we're raising here. It's very important as parents that we must be intentional in
We have to
raising
be.
our children and in educating them, and not only in books, but life in general, like the example you just
Yeah.
gave us, which I think is a very good note to close our discussion. It's been an hour.
Yay.
um,
Yeah.
but it's been so nice talking to you, and I wish we can continue. Like I am learning a lot from how you parent and how you solve problems in your parenting journey, and
Mm,
I believe that a lot of people are gonna be inspired and motivated, and they're gonna learn a lot from your journey from just watching this video. And please,
I'm glad.
in future, if I ask you to come back, please don't hesitate, because I'm already thinking of other topics that we can discuss. I'm like,
Oh, totally, totally. I'll gladly share. Like I get this a lot, so I'm like, okay. I think I assume everybody thinks the way I think, and so therefore I actually need to just share my brain with the world. So I'll
yes,
gladly come back. Yeah.
it's amazing. I follow you on Instagram. I know you're on Instagram and also on YouTube. Where else can people connect with you?
Uh, that's pretty much it. You can try Facebook, but what everything that's on Instagram is on Facebook, and so
Okay.
and I'm my DMs are always open. I think that's my bio. It's like you want to chat, just slide into my DMs, and I've made my account private. I've just become a lot more aware of child protection laws, so I'm trying my best to honor my 3 children. So yeah. Woo! That's another topic for another day.
Yes, yes, definitely, definitely.
Yeah,
Okay, no, thank you so much. I will put all the links in the description box. So I'll put
yeah.
your Instagram and your
Instagram
YouTube
and
channel.
awesome.
Instagram, Facebook, and
Yay!
YouTube.
Yes, yes. It's all pretty much the
Okay,
same thing.
if you've watched until this far, what must I comment with? Which one did you choose? You chose
Oh,
a pencil. Comment with a pencil, pencil, water, and what was the
what
other
was the
question?
other thing? Oh, late night.
Yeah. Comment
Night
with an
owl.
owl, pencil, and water. Then we'll know that you watched until
Yay.
the end. Thank you so much for
Oh
watching,
wow,
and thank you so
yay.
much, Evan, for coming. Oh, for coming through. Okay. Bye.
Bye.